Started now. So welcome to our webinar looking at neurodiversity and mental health. My name is Harry Saville, the Managing Consultant Psychologist here at CiC. So my background has been working in neurodiversity for about 10 years now, working in schools, universities and the workplace, supporting individuals through one-to-one coaching and training teams and organisations to help them be more neuro-inclusive. So yeah, welcome today to look at a webinar looking at links between mental health and neurodiversity, understanding what the differences are and how they interlink. So little introduction to start with for anyone here who's new to the term neurodiversity. Some of you might have gone to our previous webinars before and seen and have this intro before, but just going through for anyone new today. So first of all, what is neurodiversity? So neurodiversity, it refers to natural variations in human brain function and embraces that people have different ways of thinking, learning, and processing information. It also highlights that people naturally think about things differently. We're all unique. We all sit within that spectrum of different challenges, different strengths, different ways of thinking. And I think this picture is a really lovely way of looking at that. There's some people who are more visual thinkers, some people more process driven, some people better with numbers, some people more creative, some people more big picture thinking, some people more processing in the moment. And links all those different thinking styles together really helps build a more all-rounded team. I think is what we try and encourage when we think about neuro-inclusivity in the workplace. But within that as well, neurodiversity is also used as an umbrella term for some common learning differences that you may have heard of before. So I've made a little list here of some of these that come under that umbrella term, such as dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, ADHD, so that's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, autism, and Tourette's also spoken about under that umbrella term as well. This isn't an exhaustive list, it's just some of the most common diagnoses that I've seen and dealt with before as well. As we said on the previous slide, everyone's experience is unique, and it's something to really bear in mind within these diagnoses as well. Two people can have the same diagnosis, but may present with slightly different challenges or strengths. If you think about each diagnosis as a list of maybe certain characteristics or just characteristics, challenges, or strengths that might go underneath that. It doesn't mean everyone has exactly the same list or commonalities within that as well. So to bear in mind, there's some variation within there. Similarly, that might also depend on the role or situation someone's in. Someone might be in one particular role that really plays to their strengths. It might be a different role that highlights some challenges and they need some extra support. Additionally, people can have multiple diagnoses. So someone might have dyslexia and ADHD. They might have dyslexia and dyspraxia. All impact on the characteristics of how that presents for that individual. That's a key message from this, really, as what we talk about in the workplace preferences webinar last month as well, is it's really good to understand if someone has a diagnosis, but always be kind of open to their experience and their situation, to kind of be open-minded to what that looks for them, and treat each individual uniquely. So what we'll go through today, first of all, looking at the links between neurodiversity and mental health. So kind of asking you as well what you think those differences are, and seeing those comorbidities there as well, where it overlaps. Challenges to well-being in neurodivergent employees, and lastly, how we can support ourselves and colleagues. Throughout this session, as we usually do, we'll have opportunities for you to ask questions, share your thoughts, and take part in discussions. So please do share your questions, any thoughts, any comments, anything that resonates with you. Please do share in the chat. It really helps bring that chat to life. Really, some of the theory we're talking about here, those experiences you've seen in the workplace as well, can really help add some meat to that as well. And what a lot of what you might say as well might really resonate with someone else on the call today, which will encourage them to feel safe to talk about this topic as well. So please, if you do feel comfortable to share, please do. So on that note, first question for the chat. So if anyone wants to share, please do. What do you feel that the difference is between neurodiversity and mental health? What do you think the distinctions are there? Please do share your thoughts in the chat. Yeah, it's a really good point. First comment there. So being a neurodiverse person does not mean you have mental health issues. Absolutely. So um, very distinct conversations. Uh, there can be situations where someone who is neurodiverse is experiencing mental health issues, but does not mean they definitely do. It's not that 100% correlation. Absolutely, really good point. So what are the differences between them? How would you just define those as those being different? There's a few more comments in the chat here. So mental health varies by the level of neurodiversity related challenges people experience. Yeah, so I guess it depends on the situation people are in. We'll talk about this later as well, where those overlaps might occur, where someone who is neurodiverse may be experiencing mental health challenges. Why is that happening? Something we'll talk about in one of our future discussions. So I'll save myself from sharing anything just yet. Mental health can be treated, and neurodiversity should not be treated. Absolutely. So looking at, like we said on the first slide there, looking at how different people process information, how we think, how kind of our way of our working style and learning styles. Yeah, CiC is that's our way of processing information. It's not something to be treated. Absolutely. Um, Someone's mentioned here as a question. So mental health is how you deal with neurodiversity. So yeah, not necessarily. It's like we spoke about earlier. Not everyone who's neurodiverse experiencing mental health issues. Lots of people are thriving. A lot of people are in their roles at work because of their neurodiversity, because of those skills because of the way they're processing information, makes them very good at what they do. But in certain situations, people can be experiencing mental health challenges. But that, again, I won't go too much into that based on discussion we'll have later. But thinking about the environment people might be in, but also just what might be going on in their lives as well. So there's correlations there for different reasons. One is how your brain processes, the other is how it reacts. It's an interesting way of looking at it. Yeah, so neurodiversity is that way of processing information. Mental health can be a reaction to, everything that's gone on around us, things going on in our lives, uh, how things are going at work as well. Absolutely. They are separate. Yes, what we put in there. Absolutely. So that's what we're trying to get at here. Understand those differences. Absolutely different, definitely separate conversations. Someone shared here, yeah, neurodiversity is lifelong. Mental health can vary throughout your life. Yeah, it's exactly. So neurodiversity is if you have one of those um, diagnosis or have a certain way of thinking, that's your way of that's your brain. It's how you process the world. With mental health, yes, for all of us, mental health is something we all have, and we, it goes up and down in different parts of our lives. Absolutely, so it's not that permanent state. That's a really good way of looking at it. Uh, yeah, someone's put in the comments there. Everyone has mental health. Not everyone has a neurodiverse condition. Absolutely. So within that spectrum of neurodiversity, so yeah, being neurodivergent, having those diagnoses, yeah, exactly. Not everyone has one of those conditions. The idea of neurodiversity is that, as a term, is the idea of that spectrum of differences. But yeah, not everyone has those conditions. But yeah, everyone has mental health. Absolutely. A good way of looking at it as well. Um, yeah, a lot of people reacting to the idea of the brain, how the brain processes, how it, where the others, how mental health is more how it reacts. Yeah, someone shared here, mental health comes in when they may not get the support they need. Yes, good point. That's something we'll talk about later as well. Someone shared a question here. Can mental health have a different impact to someone who is neurodivergent? I guess mental health impacts all of us in different ways. So yeah, the answer to that would be yes. Something we'll talk about in the following slides as well. We think about how mental health, if we have poor mental health, we're struggling, if we're feeling stressed, if we're feeling anxious, how that interacts with how we think, how we interact with others. So linking that in with how we process information as well. Yeah, of course, that will interact. That will impact them in different ways as well. How it impacts all of us in different ways. Absolutely. One is a difference in the way you think. The other is the health of your mental state. Yeah, absolutely. So one's less permanent. One's permanent. One's more how we're feeling in that moment. Absolutely. Yeah, someone shared. So completely different, but directly impact each other. Yeah, it's a good message that we'll go through today as well. Absolutely. Yeah, so the last comment here, so mental health issue is something to cure, something we're looking to support. We all want to have positive mental health, whereas neurodiversity is something to embrace. Thinking about that's how we process information. How do we kind of really see the value in that? Absolutely. Uh, so yeah, thank you everyone for sharing there. So going a little bit into what mental health is, a lot of you have shared some thoughts in the chat already. Um, Yeah, so for me to reiterate what we've spoken about in the chat, neurodiversity is something it's our characteristics, how we think. It's more permanent. It's what makes us us. Mental health is, it's health. It's not permanent. It's ever changing depending on our environment, our circumstances. So we think about mental health. So it includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. So that affects how we think, feel, and act. So, like I said before, it determines how we maybe handle stress, relate to others, make choices. It's also tied very much into our physical health as well. So, if anyone here has had those moments where they're feeling a bit low, or a bit stressed, or burnt out, you feel that difference, like how it impacts on our bodies as well, that tension we might experience, um, appetite, weight changes, all those little things can be impacted by our mental health. Um, so think about as well when we come to later today, thinking about how we can support our well-being and the impact of self-care. So all those little things also have a positive effect on our mental health as well. So yeah, some of the terms here, sorry, I nearly missed, that are included in poor mental health. You might have heard some of these diagnoses or terms like anxiety, stress, depression, fatigue, burnout, all linked in with that mental health and the consequence, maybe poor well-being for a variety of reasons. So there can be some co-occurrences we see with between neurodiversity and mental health. So looking here, so first of all, those with dyslexia, this is from the British Dyslexia Association. They found those with dyslexia are at higher risk of developing stress, anxiety, and depression. Um, from the Attitude magazine, if anyone's not looked at that, I think it's a really good website as well. They've got a good website that offers a lot of interesting advice and strategies as well. So if anyone here knows someone who or is has ADHD, so I think it's a good website to look through. So roughly 20 to 50% of adults with ADHD have major depressive disorder. About 50% of individuals with ADHD have some type of anxiety disorder. And lastly, here is looking at autism. 80% of autistic adults experience mental health issues during their lives. That's from Autistica. And the National Autistic Society found 47% of autistic people fall into the severe anxiety category. Uh, so, good question to you all now. What could be causing this link? We've already kind of started to touch on that a little bit in the chat, kind of what causes that link. So, although they're different, there's reasons why they interact. So, what could be causing this link? Someone shared here in the chat, I need that top stat for my managers. Yeah, I think something we talk about a lot at CIT as well is the importance of manager awareness. The more awareness they have of that, the more they're going to be looking out for the wider impact of neurodiversity. So thank you for sharing that. A few points here. So the environment. Yeah, think about the environment we're in. I was saying earlier, you might have someone really thriving in a particular environment, but they might switch roles, or their role changes, or their manager changes, and that environment can shift, and then suddenly that mental health can be affected. Same as it can be for all of us. Um, Social expectations, societal expectations, yeah. So kind of how people look at neurodiversity, or how people the expectations people put on you. Um, Sean shared a really good one here, the pressure energy of masking. Yeah, so the impact of masking, something I'll talk about on the next slide as well. I was thinking about the impact of where people don't feel safe to share their differences or talk about the challenges. They maybe smile through that, act how they feel they should do, mask their differences. And all that pressure and energy taken up from throwing themselves into or working in a way that doesn't suit them. Yeah, it can be lead to a lot of fatigue and stress. Absolutely. Something we'll definitely bring up on the next slide. Good point here. The world is set up for neurotypical people. Yeah, something to have a conversation about yesterday as well is thinking about how we build those neuro-inclusive cultures and organizations. It's less about labeling everyone, is even just creating flexibility in the workplace to enable people to work in ways that suit them. So yeah, a lot of workplaces set up for, or the world set up for neurotypical people. How do we build that flexibility in our environments? Something that's really important to think about. Yeah, same comment here. The world isn't built for neurodivergent individuals. Not taking that into account, has it? It's really thought about what the typical person might be able to work with, or and gone with that. Absolutely. Frustration at overcoming daily challenges. Yeah, being faced with challenges, frustration around that. It's exhausting as well. Having to do that all the time. Rigid thinking styles. Yes, having one way of doing things, not having that desire to change. Comparing and being compared with neurotypical people, colleagues, absolutely. Something we talk about in some of our well-being sessions as well. Comparing ourselves to others can be has a real impact on our well-being, but also being compared to neurotypical colleagues by your other colleagues or managers. Yeah, that can have impact on our well-being. Absolutely. Yeah, again, not working in a system not designed for neurodiverse brains. Bad management, someone not understanding. Yeah, I always try and emphasize the importance of neuro-inclusive management. Something, yeah, we always talk about at CiC, the value that has of manager awareness, whether even well-being or neurodiversity as well. Training around there can make a massive difference in terms of having those supportive conversations, making those adjustments. Um, a lot of it could be the worry of not performing to a standard that's considered as normal. Yeah, then we put that pressure on ourselves, don't we? Or those who are neurodivergent, you think about, I feel like, oh, I should be doing this way. I need to be performing a certain standard. I need to be doing it this way to be considered normal. So putting that pressure on ourselves as well, absolutely. Additional issues caused by neurodiversity means that we are continuously taking on a massive information. Yes, maybe feeling overwhelmed as well, feeling isolated, or being it can be isolating. Yeah, it can lead to mental health issues. Yeah, feeling like you're not being supported, isolating. And isolation as well can be a sign of poor mental health issues as well. So that kind of vicious cycle as we feel isolated, experience those issues, and then we isolate ourselves further. It's a good word someone's used in the chat here, stigma. Yeah, stigma around neurodiversity. It's lack of awareness usually is the cause of that, and what people associate with neurodiversity. Maybe it leads to discrimination around those diagnoses, people being perceived as less able. So that stigma is still there. It's definitely got a lot better in the last 10 years, but hopefully it's that as much as we can do to raise the awareness of the value of neurodiversity can make a big difference. Yeah, conforming to the neurotypical way of doing things, rigid things can be very rigid in life. Someone shared here, so having dyslexia, but being treated like I do not have it. Okay, having the same targets and not being given extra time. Yes, and again, not having that flexibility in how we're doing things, understanding your ways of working, what you might find helpful. It's not having those adjustments available. Linked in with that word that's been used a lot today, that rigidity in our environments. We really need a slide or two for managers as they say they understand, but you don't comply because of your neurodiversity, they don't understand. Yeah, so more awareness is definitely valuable. That new inclusive management is so important. Overthinking brain exhausting. Yeah, if you've so we see with ADHD as well, maybe linking with that some of the links with the anxiety disorders as well. People rumination sometimes can be quite exhausting. Also linking in if you're worried about how you might be perceived, linking in with that stigma. If you're in that environment where you don't feel safe and you're worried about how people might be looking at you, yeah, at least they're more overthinking. Yeah, and in itself is exhausting. Yeah, it's a really good point. Neurodivergent people have different regulation of hormones, dopamine. Yeah, absolutely. So kind of bearing that in mind, how that links in with our well-being and our mental health as well. Predisposition sometimes to certain mental health challenges. Yeah, there's definitely some research around that. It's a good point. ADHD in women can be affected by menstrual cycle. Absolutely, really good point. So the differences in men and women as well is a really good conversation to have. maybe an entirely different webinar to be had in the future, maybe looking at gender differences, especially awareness of different characteristics between men and women, especially boys and girls when they're growing up. Impact of menstrual cycles, also the menopause as well, how that interacts with people who are neurodivergent and their kind of characteristics as well. So yeah, it's a really good point. Uh, Lack of understanding of what neurodiversity means for an individual. So the stress of handling it, that in a world that doesn't feel as though it understands. Yeah, so lack of understanding of the knock-on effects. Uh, um, First of all, the kind of what it means to be neurodiverse, what those characteristics are, what those differences are, and the lack of understanding there leading to kind of the stress in that as well. Yeah, absolutely. Sensory overload, someone shared, yes, so thinking about the working environment. So if anyone's in the office today, thinking about your environment and what could be overwhelming in that space as well. Think if it's anyone here is who is in the office today, think about for those who maybe experience sensory overload or sensory sensitivities, what could have been overwhelming in just coming into work or being in that environment. Someone just shared it that never knew this in terms of that link with ADHD in women. Yeah, I think it's a lot of I think, like I said, it'd be a really good conversation maybe in the future, in one of our future webinars to have around gender differences there and the lack of awareness there is sometimes with in how it presents in boys and girls as well. So yeah, it's a really good point. Just handling day-to-day life. Yeah. Uh, Negative connotations around the terms. Uh, yes, a lot of people resonating with that point around the differences in women and the impact of the menstrual cycle. Yes, I think it really highlights the importance of maybe doing that in the future. Um, yeah, needing to sit still for a couple of hours. Again, that kind of inflexibility. You can't work to what suits you. Kind of sitting down for long periods of time without being judged for leaving your desk or taking a break. You're not having that flexible, dynamic way of working. Um, yeah, medication with ADHD as well. I'll try to anything new here. Um, Someone's shared, yeah, this is really overwhelming and eye-opening. My GP just yesterday has confirmed I have ADHD. I suspected it, but now has confirmed it. At least I can work on management. Yeah, I think like once you know it, always I've heard when people get diagnosis, it sometimes feels like there's a weight's been lifted and they can understand themselves better. When I used to do workplace needs assessments, you hear people saying, they don't blame themselves anymore. So it can be quite overwhelming, can't it? But also it can be very helpful. It's a bit of that double-edged sword. Yeah, someone mentioned here as well, the top stat is very interesting. Makes sense for a lot of things now. It's something I have wondered since my diagnosis. Yes, that kind of link in with um with that mental health. Yeah, someone shared here the diagnosis really helped me. That's what I was just talking about there as well. Yeah, stigma as well leads to a lot of negative self-talk, so we can internalize that a lot. Absolutely. Thank you, everyone who shared your thoughts in here. I'll share some other bits that I thought might also link in with that neurodiversity and well-being. So as I'm going, I'll keep looking through the chat as we go. I'll talk through these as well. I think we spoke about the stigma around neurodiversity a lot in the chat. Um, when people are in those rigid environments, feeling helpless, lack of autonomy, lack of control, for any of us when we're feeling kind of lack of control in what's happening around us, that can feel really, really stressful. Unsupportive leadership, lack of support. Yeah, we spoke about the impact of managers in the chat or leadership, or our colleagues, when we're faced with challenges, how those around us support us can make a massive difference in how stressful that feels. And you might have one manager who's really supportive, maybe takes that stress away, someone who maybe adds to that stress. So really that manager understanding awareness and how they offer those adjustments is really important. Masking we've spoken about. So when people feel unsafe, don't feel psychologically safe in their environment to share their differences, they might mask their differences, try and act in a way they feel they should do, that neurotypical way. And that in itself can be really exhausting and cause a lot of stress. It's a lot of fatigue, stressed, overwhelmed in certain environments. Think about sensory sensitivities as well. Loneliness, isolation. Someone mentioned in the chat that kind of isolation can be very isolating. Feeling kind of no one really gets you, feeling like you can't talk about it with someone. Yeah, feeling like you're on your own. social anxiety for some. So something you might see with those who maybe a lot with autism as well, maybe struggling with social cues, struggling with certain social environments, linking with that sensory sensitivities as well, finding certain social events maybe part of work can be really overwhelming. Managing change for some people can be pretty overwhelming. I think for all of us, change and uncertainty gets very stress provoking. But for others, managing change, especially when it's moving away from an environment where you've got a lot of structured adjustments in place, can be very overwhelming. So it's something we saw a lot during COVID when people had to be taken out very abruptly from their working environment, where they had maybe set adjustments, equipment they could use, support networks there, being into a new environment, maybe working from home. Um, Without those adjustments, that can be very overwhelming. I'll keep going back to the chat now. If anything else here resonates with you, please do share. Anything I've missed, do share. Yeah, someone shared here that being told everyone that has ADHD these days, that classic case of lack of awareness, and yeah, that makes it very dismissed and kind of belittles it a little bit, doesn't it? Absolutely, and basically it can lead to that low feeling. So yeah, thank you for sharing that the impact it has on you. Yeah, it shows the value of why we need to grow that awareness of how these specific conditions and diagnoses really affect people. I feel there is often a focus on what neurodiverse can't do, what they find challenging, and too little focus on areas in which they can exceed and do better in their neurotypical people. Yeah, absolutely. If anyone, yeah, there's a really important point about understanding the value of neurodiversity. See a lot now around organizations now building their neurodiversity networks and their neurodiversity at work programs to try and tap into those skill sets. So there's growing awareness there, moving away from that stigma for sure. If anyone wants to learn more about that, we've done some good sessions on the value of neurodiversity. Actually, a neurodiversity celebration week earlier this year. So if you want to look at that recording, it's on our YouTube channel, but also on Ellie, if anyone has access to the Ellie platform. Yeah, someone should just that point there around being told everyone has ADHD has really resonated with someone here. I think probably for a lot of people. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we want to move away from that shows the value of growing that awareness, doesn't it? Um, One question here I'll go through and I'll keep moving, just conscious of time. But thank you everyone for putting their thoughts in the chat. I think it's great just to see kind of what resonates with a lot of people and everyone sharing their thoughts. So I'll put a question here: is there a link between neurotypical people and extroverts, uh, respectively introverted people and neurodiversity? I'm thinking of sensory overload aspect of it. There could be, but there could also be people who are neurodiverse who are very extroverted. So they're not, yeah, there may also be people who are more less sociable or sociable, but also need time to themselves. I think like the definition of introvert and extroverted, where they get their energy from. Some people might really thrive off that kind of bouncing off people and getting that space to themselves, where some people might prefer having that time to themselves to recharge and needing that alone time. Yeah, and I think maybe knowing about where those environments are, where for some people it's really overwhelming. Yeah, you mentioned their sensory overload. Yeah, absolutely. So for some people, maybe those neurodiverse traits for them really make certain environments very overwhelming, and they need that break, that space where they can have that like a quiet. It's similar in offices. We have those quiet spaces or reflection rooms or quiet rooms as well, where people might need a space away from those environments. So yeah, there could be that interlink for sure. But I also say, like I said, there could be extroverted people who are also neurodiverse for sure. I'll keep moving. Thank you everyone for sharing in the chat. Sorry if I've missed your comments. It's getting away from me. I think there's so many people putting in. I can't read fast enough, so I'll come back to that as we go. But I'll come back to any thoughts as we go through. Yeah, so some key signs here of poor well-being. Some of these might resonate with you, but I think for all of us is to look out for. Our colleagues, whether it be neurodiverse or not. I think just a key thing really for me is noticing those significant changes in behaviour. I think we all know ourselves, our colleagues, our friends, our family more than others. So if you see those changes in how people act, just that can be a good sign, a big sign of poor well-being, of people struggling. But also withdrawing, we spoke about before, some people isolating themselves. impact on their emotions, being maybe more irritable, emotions more in the service, more absences, being more tearful, uh, fatigued, more reduced self-care, so that physical appearance or lack of enjoyment in activities we often see linked with depression, lower engagement, and maybe that presenteeism, so the performance is impacted or motivation's impacted. So yeah, I think, like I said before, looking out for those significant changes in behaviour and mood is a really good starting point. So thinking now about neurodiversity in the workplace, if you are neurodivergent in the workplace, or if you're a colleague here who has other colleagues who are neurodiverse, how can we support our own well-being? Just notice there's a spelling mistake on my part. Apologies. It should be our own well-being, not our own well-being. So how can we support our own well-being in the workplace? What have you found helpful at work? How have you found it seeing initiatives in your own workplace that you found helpful? Or for yourselves, what do you find helpful in supporting your well-being in the workplace? So yeah, sharing kind of education resources, support networks, reasonable adjustments. Again, having that flexibility. Yeah, so tapping into support networks. So yeah, not doing it alone is really important. Uh, Absolutely. I think so we talk about the self-care slide later as well. You know, it's importance of our social networks is so important. And from a university side, if you have a neurodiversity network, if you don't, maybe setting one up would be useful. Getting a space where people feel like they belong, they're not alone, removes that isolation. You can share ideas like we do in these calls, in these webinars, being able to share, you know, advice and what people found helpful, what they don't find helpful, similar stories, helps people feel like, you know, they're not alone, which is really, really powerful. Um, yeah, finding time to make stuff, making time for things you really enjoy, um, having clear boundaries, being clear about what can and can't be achieved, and communicating that far in advance as possible. Yeah, absolutely, is helpful. Especially helpful when, you know, when you've got a team and a manager who's receptive to that. When you can say, you know, I can't do this because of this. This is what I can do today. This is what I can't do. Someone said we have just started an ND support group, a neurodiversity support group. It means that meets up every month. It's only small at the moment, but it's the first of our company and made me feel a lot less alone and safer. Yeah, it's really useful. That I'm sure that will grow over time. So keep promoting it. I'm sure I'll get bigger. Taking breaks throughout the days. Yes, we're managing your energy. Um, yeah, someone shared these webinars help me feel less alone. That's really good to hear. Yeah, just the benefit of people sharing ideas and their experiences are always really valuable. So thank you for sharing that. Uh, yeah, I'm sure you're not alone there in feeling that way. Um, I've started a spreadsheet which I update each week for accomplishments in certain areas each week. Yeah, it's really helpful. Thinking about reflecting on the good things. It's very easy for us to beat ourselves up and magnify those negatives, kind of common cognitive bias some of us experience, especially when we're experiencing low confidence or low self-esteem in something. In a certain area, especially if you're worried about being kind of talked down to because of that neurodiversity in the past. Um, really magnify something really that's happening to us and forget all the good things we bring to our role. So yeah, reflecting on that and really pointing out the good things you've added as well is a really, really good thing to do. That's a great idea. Um, Saying no more. So yeah, having those boundaries. Um, Feeling like you can be honest. Yes, and when you feel you can be honest is really important. Something we'll talk about when we get to the next part of this conversation about how we can support our colleagues as well. Pacing ourselves. Um, yeah, using assistive technologies. So there's lots out there now, and with the evolution of AI as well, that's going to get better and better, I believe. So lots of different tools out there to support, whether it be through Microsoft. I know have loads. If you look for their neurodiversity page, they've got lots of different assistive bits there you can try out. There's also other software out there like Dragon, Read and Write, mind mapping software. So software there to help people if they want to dictate, if they're better at verbalizing their ideas instead of writing them down, or listening to things out loud on the computer. There's things there that can really, really help. Updating my manager, using a reflective journal. Yeah, similar to what we spoke about before about reflecting on our those positives as well. Um, Started to share more that I struggle to understand if people are just alluding to something, realizing I need them to be more specific. Yes, again, yeah, I think that's really important as well. Just kind of knowing what helps you and then expressing that with others. So a lot of you have shared kind of how you communicate that to your manager, kind of what can be done, what can't be done. And also, yeah, kind of thinking about if I know this helps me, like having the confidence to go and express that to my team. I find it helpful to express things this way. So not hiding that. It all comes down to the environment we're in, isn't it? If we feel like we can share that, it really helps. So something to think about from anyone here as colleagues and managers, how do we create that environment where people feel safe to share what helps them? Um, yeah, someone shared here, so taking breaks throughout the day, and someone responded, I would do this, but it's a very high chance that I would go home, especially in this weather in summer. It's always more chance of us this take a bit longer. Um, Focus is yeah, so that kind of from an autism perspective, that stimming is a calming technique. Yeah, so kind of understanding that's helpful, feeling safe to do it in your environment as well. So, yeah, I think again for individuals who are not aware what stimming is, kind of understanding that and accepting that people may do that in meetings or in their at their desk as well. Working with other neurodiverse people on our team. As a manager, I look to employ neurodiverse people as it encourages others to mask less, including myself. Yeah, that's really helpful. So really kind of when you see someone who's got those skills that you need for their role and really valuing those skills, bringing them in, it's really important. Um, yeah, someone mentioned here, a colleague of mine requested less breaks throughout the day as likes to be kept busy. Yeah, so it's really about the individual, think about what's good for you may not be good for someone else. So like I said right at the start, just because you may know something about particularly neurodiverse diagnosis or you know a bit about neurodiversity, doesn't mean you know everything this person might find helpful. And now I've fallen into that trap as well, going into workplace needs assessments, you hear a diagnosis, you think you know what might be included, but it's not always the same. So always keep an open mind. What you think might be helpful might not be helpful to some people. So um, on that one as well, always check in with them. Is it something they find helpful or something they feel they should be doing? So, like we spoke about before, some people might feel they need to work harder. They're trying to, act in a way they feel they should do. They're worried about how they're going to be perceived. So just checking in, make sure they know they the, what their expectations are and not putting too much pressure on them. So important. Um, yeah, someone shared that Microsoft Voice Access is so much better than the old Windows voice recognition. Yeah, it's definitely improved a lot. Even in my time working in this area, it used to be not very good. Now much better. Someone shared just making time for those moments, breaks away from desks. So yeah, playing with Lego is a good one. Uh, the others, someone shared using tight fitted clothes, weighted backpack. It calms the deep vestibular part of the brain. That's interesting. Yeah, so knowing your own triggers and knowing what's helpful, and that's really good. Uh, I'll keep moving through ideas here. I think for all of us, talk about neurodiversity, but in terms of well-being for all of us, I think just knowing yourself is really important. So I think someone mentioned in the chat here, knowing your own triggers. Yeah, knowing what triggers you, what you don't find helpful, what you do find helpful. I think spending time to reflect on yourself, like when you are feeling stressed, what are those signs? What should you look out for, and what's going to be helpful for you when you're in those moments? It's not kind of letting that build up, not masking through those differences, not taking that home and letting it fall into more of a crisis. We don't want to fall into that from that stress or anxiety into a burnout. We want to address things earlier. So finding time in your day, first of all, to kind of think about how you're feeling is a really good starting point. So thinking about now for all of you, think about is there time in your day when you can reflect? I think a few of you mentioned journaling. That's a good idea. It's a good space for this as well. But thinking about when can you do that in your day? Can you do that at the start of the day? Can you do that at lunchtime on a walk? Can you do that at the end of your day? And how would you do that? Would you do that through just reflecting internally, writing things down, um, talking through how you're feeling with someone? Making time for that is really important. There's a question for you all now is then for thinking about what are your first signs of stress? Um, because if you notice those first signs of stress before you start running on empty, it can help put things in place before you really fall into that burnout phase. So if anyone's willing to share, please do. What are your first signs of maybe feeling stressed? What's your first signs of approaching empty? Um, Someone shared anxiety. Someone said I can't control my catastrophizing when I'm approaching empty. Yes, kind of more kind of ruminating, going down those what if questions and thinking about worst case. Yeah, when it's harder to control, isn't it? Agitated, more irritable. Yeah, I definitely lose my patience a little bit. I feel a bit more stressed. Definitely shaky vision. Someone shared panic attacks, overthinking, twitching. So you can see, I always love with these questions because it just helps to show kind of the broad spectrum of what this looks like. Well, doesn't it? It's all different for all of us. Um, Decision making impaired, yeah, stop being able to make decisions. Reflecting can become ruminating if not careful. Yeah, so that kind of that gap between just thinking about things a little bit and then overthinking it. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Taking deep inhales, yeah, so kind of trying to like calm your breath down. Short fused, um, so kind of catastrophizing morbid thoughts, kind of negative thoughts. Feeling overwhelmed, chest pains, yeah, like chest tightness sometimes. Broken sleep cycles, yeah, I definitely get that as well. Overthinking at night, making similar mistakes over and over again. Yeah, grumpy, that irritation, someone shared as well. Um, Someone shared, yeah, so I have no idea. I just realize when I'm burnt out, usually when I'm exhausted or get ill. Yeah, that's why these processes are really helpful, I think. So for you, I think for all of us, taking that time each day to think, just check in with yourself, how you're feeling, and starting to notice those triggers will help you avoid getting into those exhaustion or burnout phases. So try and make time for that. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm sure you're not alone there. You know, we often sometimes, especially when we're busy, find ourselves kind of stumbling through the day or through the week, and before you know it, we're kind of falling out of a lot of self-care strategies or things we find helpful. I know I've done that when we're in a stressful time, for sure. So try and make time for yourself and checking with yourself is really important. Brain fog, feeling overwhelmed. Someone's asked if we can share the slides after today. We'll be sharing a recording afterwards as well to the attendees, so no problem. Feeling hopeless, yeah, feeling well grumpier. The grumpiness seems to be the big one. Um, Get paralysis, a whole list of things. Kind of feel like can't make yourself do anything. Yeah, kind of feeling like not getting started with anything is too many things. A kind of overwhelming paralysis, panic attacks, loss of concentration. Yeah, like I said, you can see the broad spectrum of how poor well-being can look. So also really important for everyone here to recognize it's not the same as what you experience. You know, everyone will have different things. So just checking in with changes in people's behavior is really important. And what we need to prioritize. So when we are stressed, we often neglect a lot of these self-care principles. And when we are stressed, a lot of these can fall off. A lot of people mentioned kind of sleep being impacted. Um, So I think key message from this is prioritizing yourself is a really important point. Having those clear boundaries, a lot of you mentioned, taking takes taking that time for ourselves, our basic needs. So like sleep, make sure we're eating well, well hydrated, have water. We often can forget to drink a glass of water when we're busy. Making time for exercise, exercise and sleep have some of the biggest impacts on our well-being. So making time for those really important. Making time for the hobbies we have in our lives that bring joy to us, and our social connections. Someone mentioned earlier the impact of the network they've started as well. Um, yeah, I think being able to make time for that, the people that give us energy, the people that are really positive in our lives, and being able to talk things through with people, it's a massive impact. So if anyone's willing to share, kind of how do you engage in self-care? What do you find helpful in those moments when you're finding yourself feeling low? Or is there anything else here you feel like you need to maybe pay more attention to? Something here else here you can improve on? Um, Someone shared, yeah, caffeine reduces the chaos in my brain. So yeah, sometimes caffeine can be helped to focus us content, but too much can also impact our sleep. Just got to find that balance. Um, Knowing your default fight flight mechanism under stress. Yeah, again, that part that reflection time. Music, playing with cats as well. Yeah, so kind of that support, having that support from your pets as well, massive help. Um, I've stopped working over and above requirements at work. It's hard to do when you love the job, but you have to learn to put myself first. Yeah, it's important to know, think about it this way is the more boundaried you are, the more you look after yourself, the more productive you can be in the future. If you're burning yourself out in the short term, the long term, it's not going to help. So it allows you to do more in the long term. So my way of looking at it. Yeah, having those clear boundaries to help look after yourself really valuable. Grounding, uh, yoga, kind of like a meditative way, kind of bringing yourself to the present moment. Um, my chat GPT can really help me with overwhelming relaxation. Interesting. Yeah, so using that to help to kind of think things through maybe. Exercise takes me out of my brain briefly. Yeah, it really helps. It also helps release those endorphins and serotonin, it's that natural antidepressant as well from exercise. So really helpful. Yeah, sleep and exercise, two massive ones make a massive difference. Something we've been talking about a bit recently at CiC, our sleep program and our mobility programs, really trying to emphasize the value that has on our well-being. Yeah, someone's mentioned here, I've been working on the self-care piece a lot recently. It's been a blind spot historically. So yoga, walks, drinking water, still trying to crack getting enough sleep. Yeah, it can be a hard one, that one. Especially, it's not just an off switch we can click. I wish there was, but we find ourselves sometimes still awake, brain still going, ruminating about things. Can be hard sometimes. Um, Someone's had to ask, does anyone else repeat songs or one line from a song over and over? I guess there's that kind of that familiarity can add a lot of comfort. The same as people listening to the same song, podcasts or movies as well. Someone else called recently about people be listening to or rewatching the same films. Adds a sense of kind of consistency and comfort. So it's something that can be helpful. Um, so people found helpful. Going outside, yeah, a few different ideas here. So thank you everyone for sharing. I'll keep going, conscious of time. It's been really good discussion today. But yeah, emphasizing that point, a lot of you have mentioned about boundaries, thinking about how we protect our own space, make time for ourselves. It's not selfish to want to look after ourselves, to enable us to support others and be better at our roles. And that's the way to look at it. Um, so thinking, how do we encourage people? How can we support the well-being of our neurodivergent colleagues? Has anyone got any ideas? We spoke about networks earlier, kind of awareness as well, awareness training. Um, any other ideas? How can we support our colleagues? Someone's on that question about music. So if it's not helpful, how can I stop it? That's a good question. I'm not sure. If anyone's got any thoughts on that one, please do share in the chat. Um, how can we support the well-being of our neurodivergent colleagues? Any ideas? So that's rumination. You can stop this by diverting your brain to new activities. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. It's a great idea. No, thank you for sharing that. It's a good idea. Yeah, some ideas now for supporting our colleagues, effective listening, understanding, come back to that active listening, showing we're supportive, um, letting people play to their strengths, understanding their strengths is really important, isn't it? So moving away from that stigma and having that understanding of what they're bringing, or just listening to them and understanding their needs and their strengths as well. Um, let's have a look. Anything else? As managers, we got together and discussed how we like to communicate with each other, what works and what does not. We meet bi-monthly to check in with each other. So yeah, so that's great as managers doing that. So you can do that with your team as well. Checking in with them, what works for them, what doesn't work for them, what communication style works, what doesn't. And that's really important. So that's a good idea. I think bringing that into the rest of the groups as well. Taking time to observe people and how they behave and try to fit how you deal with them to their preferences. Yes, understanding your team more, having that flexibility, I was about to say, thank you there, supporting flexible and home working so can more easily manage sensory sensitivities. Yeah, it's about how can we flex our ways of working, our management style, our communication style, our working kind of patterns to each individual. We all have our own strengths, our own preferences. So having that flexibility will make a big difference. In this case, think about home working, flexible working, help manage those sensory sensitivities. That will enable them to be more productive. So everyone wins. Um, Learning a new hobby. Sort of mentioned here, talk about rumination and supporting rumination. Having a no surprises policy. Yeah, so kind of make sure if people have time to process what's coming up, no surprises. Um, when scheduling meetings, have at least 5 minutes in between, so you can for quiet moments. Yeah, making sure people have space in between meetings. Very hard now, isn't it, when we're working from home or working remotely and we have meetings kind of back to back to back. We can all experience that kind of meeting fatigue sometimes, can't we? So making time for that is really important. Something we spoke about actually at CiC as well, was thinking about maybe doing 45-minute meetings. So everyone has that little 15-minute gap in between. Where normally in the office you maybe walk between meetings. So yeah, it's a good idea. Mandatory learning about Neurodiversity for management. Yeah, it's a great idea. Something that we really encourage at CiC, that new inclusive management training. I think that yeah, looking at what you can do, have that awareness, what you can do to have those conversations. It's a lot that we've done there. Um, Share a few ideas here as well. So I think building that psychological safety is a big one. So how do we encourage people to not mask and feel safe to talk about it? So role modeling good behavior, advocating the value of neurodiversity, trying to break through that stigma, sharing lived experience stories in the organization, um, proactively coming up to people, having those conversations, what you find helpful, what you don't find helpful, not waiting for them to come to you, having that flexibility, having those adjustment conversations proactively, like I said, thinking about how you communicate, offering differences if they find it helpful, thinking about the built environment as well, like we spoke about sensory sensitivities. Do people find certain environments more challenging? Can they work better at home? Having those conversations with them. Now, leave this slide here for us to think about what we're going to do differently this week in terms of supporting ourselves, but also our colleagues. Um, so I'll leave that here for you to think about. Uh, but also, if anyone's got any questions, please do shout. We also have a poll, so I'm just launching that now. So if you're able to just complete this short poll, just talk about how you like you are to recommend our future neurodiversity webinars to your colleagues. Please do fill out. We really appreciate it. Uh, so yeah, if anyone's got any questions, please do ask. Um, here to help. Someone shared as well. So having staff wellbeing rooms at work, quiet space, breathing, meditation, yoga at work. That's a great idea. Anything else people might start doing? Think about it for yourself, what you could start doing. Anything you continue doing, anything you might stop doing. So for yourself, but also for your colleagues, anything you could do for your colleagues as well. So I try to get managers on these seminars. Yeah, it's always a hard one. Managers can always be really busy, can't they? To try and make time for that. Trying to get them to see the importance is really important for us, and so seeing organisationally the value of having managers go through this training is a really good step. Anything else anyone might start doing? Even think about self-care, anything you might try and prioritise. Someone shared, yes, I need to talk to my team to see if anyone who is dyslexic needs to reduce their KPIs. They are. Yeah, I think approaching that conversation in a good way is not don't necessarily have to go out and talk about those labels, about being dyslexic, anyone here dyslexic or ADHD, but just even having that open door to everyone, just saying if anyone is neurodiverse or would like to work a different way or has any challenges in the way we're working, please do come to me and we can talk about what adjustments are available. I always find that as more of an inclusive conversation. I think sometimes people feel a bit singled out, might feel a bit uncomfortable. Having that conversation with everyone, you might be surprised who comes forward and discloses a diagnosis. So it's a great idea. Going to bed earlier, yeah, it's easier said than done, isn't it? But yeah, it's great idea. Got to set up the plan beforehand, thinking about how you're going to get yourself to go to bed earlier. What's the rundown time beforehand? Yeah, it's a great goal. Support group at work. Yes, having group, the value of those networks. I'm really encouraging that. I want to continue being kind to myself. Yeah, and pushing myself out of my comfort zone. Yeah, it's good for all of us to push ourselves out of our comfort zone. Socially, professionally, being kind to yourself as well, knowing where things might be challenging, and not beating yourselves up if something is a bit challenging. It's totally fine. It's all part of being in uncomfortable environments, and you've got to know what you find challenging, what you don't. That's a really good point. Allowing reflection time, yeah, really good idea. Just finding time to think about yourself and what you've found challenging, how you're feeling, what would you find helpful. Avoid us falling into that burnout phase. Someone shared our force is really one of the top forces, I feel. It's normalised and celebrated that staff and volunteers are valued who are neurodiverse. I'd highly recommend our force here. Nice, that's really good. So that's the opposite of what we spoke about today, where the challenges are. Yeah, the value of when it is spoken about and championed, people can really bring their best selves to work and really tap into those skill sets. Yeah, that's what we want to really encourage. So yeah, sounds really good. Someone shared contacting a neurodiverse network for advice. Yeah, great idea. Yeah, you'll instantly feel that you get that sense of belonging, and people who've had similar challenges can offer you some advice. But isn't that really helpful as well because they're in your organisation, so they'll know your processes, what works, how you work, what things are, what programs you use, the kind of work streams you have. So they'll have really kind of tailored advice to you, which I think is really good. Yeah, the sleep one's really resonated with a few people. Yeah, it's why we developed at CiC the sleep program recently, kind of looking at how we improve our sleep and having those actionable plans. Like we said, sleep and exercise two of the biggest challenges and can have the biggest impact to our well-being. Someone's asked the question, how can we speak to myself or CiC? If you've got any questions, please do reach out after today. We can share our emails afterwards to the attendees. If you've got any questions, do reach out, or we've got our inquiry email, which I'm sure we can share afterwards as well. So yeah, if anyone's got any questions, please do ask. My email should be attached to the invite, the link to this session. So if you've got any questions, please do ask through there. Conscious of time. Sorry if I've missed anyone's points. The chat, as always, is very, very lively, which is always very nice to see, but sometimes makes it hard to keep up with. But if I've missed anything, please do. If I've missed anything important, if anyone's got any questions, please do reach out. Happy to help. Thank you as always, everyone in the chat, for bringing it all to life. We talk about the theory of what we see, but seeing it in your environments is really, really important and really resonates with a lot of people, which is always really important. Yeah, I hope you have a lovely afternoon, everyone, or lovely mornings, depending on where you